may be going this entire meeting without the mic, so just bear with us if you speak. Oh, that is what. Oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Can you turn up the volume just slightly? I'll try. Okay, thank you, everyone. So we're going to begin the meeting. We're going to start with the roll call.
Honorable Eric Adams, Candace Julian. David Alexander, excused. Honorable Jeffrey Aubrey, Luis Emmanuel, Gloria Benfield, present. Honorable Gail Brewer, Bryant Lafferty, Victoria Camarota Corto, Monty Castaneda, Honorable Bill de Blasio, Harold Miller,
Here.
Jacqueline De Leon, excused. Honorable Ruben Diaz Jr., Monica Major.
Here.
Honorable Eugene Matthew, Rosalind Javille, Ethan Tucker. Honorable Jalissa Ferreras, Ivan Acosta, Cheyenne Agup, Helen Foreman Hines, Helene Hartman Konoski, Honorable Letitia James, Barbara Sherman, Emil Khan, Rita Jones, Honorable Melissa Katz, Susan Tantenbaum, Honorable Andy King, Wayne King,
Present.
Honorable Melissa Mark Verito, Jessica Ackerman, excuse. Model Sports Goods, our chair, Gregory Hambrick. Mars Height Health Center, Gillian Dunkley, excused. Municipal Credit Union, Joseph Gugliardo, excused. Neighborhood Housing Services of Staten Island, Joseph Pierre, excused. Honorable James Ardo, Lachey Young. Vasimath Patel. Honorable Bill Perkins, Talia Varian. Victor Reyes. Tamika Robinson, second vice chair. Tamika. Christian Rodriguez. Honorable Deborah Rose, Edwina Martin, or Lisa Thompson. Dahlia Soto. Honorable Scott Stringer, Marilyn Mosley. St. Francis College.
Here.
Ruben Gonzalez.
Present.
Maria Travares, excused. UJA Federation of Jewish Philanthropy, New York City, Ariel Soronsky.
Here.
United Neighborhood Houses, Kevin Douglas, Gregory Brenda. UPS, Janet Lugos.
Present.
Linda Waters, first vice chair. Peter Weiss, parliamentarian. We have a quorum.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We're actually one short of a quorum under the new quorum rules, so what we're going to do is go through some okay, good. So when she arrives, then we'll make a note of that. We need 21 for a quorum. We have 20. So
Under the new quorum rules, and a lot of these rules was dictated by the state, absences don't constitute part of the quorum. So we need to make sure we have 50% plus one of the total number of board members, which currently is 40, not including any new board members that we're going to recognize today. So I'm just going to go through, we're going to jump a little bit on the agenda, so pardon us as we go through some of the reports and some other things that may not require a quick vote. And as a result, I'm going to start off with sad news, not so great news. A lot of you have saw the email on the CAB member, Jacqueline Bailey. Jacqueline sat on this board as a member of the executive committee. If you remember, she was voted in as an interim member of the executive committee when one of the members accepted a position with DYCD that's vacating her eligibility for this board. And then when the new slate was presented, she was unanimously voted in as a member of this board, and she served faithfully as a member of the NAB. Sadly, she passed away in June. We were concerned early June. The last that we heard, she was going into the hospital for undisclosed illness, and then unfortunately we just did not have a way to contact her. We tried to reach out to her through the phone, and unfortunately didn't get a message back. Members of DYCD also tried their best to get in touch with her, and it wasn't until DYCD reached out to another member of the NABs that knows Jacqueline, who went to her house and was told by her son that unfortunately she passed away. So we're extremely saddened by that. In her short time as a member of the executive committee, she was certainly extremely engaging and looking forward to contributing in that capacity. And from what I know in terms of her time as a member of the NAB, she was eagerly engaging as a member of her community. So I'm sure you all join me in certainly offering condolences to her family. We know nothing else in terms of what happened, unfortunately, so we don't know the details. We may never know the details, but we are working to express our condolences to a member of her family. I know she has a son that's in the 20s, and I believe she has a daughter that's of high school age. As a result, I am recommending, out of respect for her and her commitment to the NAB and the commitment to the CAB as a member of this executive committee, that we don't explore filling that vacancy at this particular meeting. I think it makes sense just to let's keep that position vacated until the next meeting. I actually chaired her committee previously prior to this meeting, and I will chair the committee for the next meeting. But at the next CAB meeting, or prior to the next CAB meeting, you will probably receive an email and notice for anyone that is interested in being a chair of that strategic partnership committee to submit your name to the governance committee, and we will go through that slate, and at the next CAB meeting, we will vote a chair of that committee, if no one is in objection to that. Okay, so we do now have a quorum, 23. Just for the record, I'd like to acknowledge the two members that came in. Three members that came in, I apologize.
Victoria Curto-Caruana and Peter Weiss and Mr. Brendan.
Great, okay, thank you. So we currently have a quorum, so thank you for that. Hopefully we can move forward now with the meeting. I want to welcome everyone. I hope everyone had a great summer. At least hope it was somewhat more exciting than mine. I took no big trips to speak of. Redoing work in my house. And, you know, when you do home improvement afterwards, you're broke. So that's my current situation. But hopefully everyone had an enjoyable summer. It seemed like it went rather quick, but we know the kids are back in school now, and you know, we're back to the business of doing what we do. So I appreciate everyone making it here for the meeting. First order of business is the acceptance of the minutes that was emailed to everyone, and it's also in your package. So if there isn't, okay, so we have a motion to accept the minutes by Marilyn Mosley. Second by Tamika Robinson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, those abstaining, there being none, so moved. We thank you for that. So we have two new members to recognize today. We have Isaac Herschel, who's a CAB rep for Region 11. Brooklyn NAB 7, 10, and 12. I believe he's here. Herschel, good to see you. Pleasure to meet you as well. And we also have Derek Tate, who's a CAB representative, Region 9, Manhattan NAB 10 and 11. Is Derek here? Derek, pleasure to meet you as well, and we thank you for coming here. So we thank you for your interest in serving on this board. If no one has any questions on the election, I'd really like to entertain a motion now to accept these two members to the board, to the CAB. It's been moved. Just say your name, please. Okay. It's been seconded by Gloria Benfield. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining? There will be none. So moved. Mr. Herschel, anything you want to say to address the board while you're here?
I don't want to take too much of your time. Just want to introduce myself. My name is Isaac Herschel. My nickname is Itchy. I was privileged to serve as the president of NAB 12, chairperson actually, and worked very closely with Jorge, who I'm sure about everybody knows him. He reached out to me and asked me if I would join the CAB. When I was the chairperson of NAB, I always had the utmost respect for what the CAB does, and I was honored by Jorge's request. I thank you for accepting me for this distinguished group of individuals, and I look forward to working with all of you for the greater good. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Look forward to your service. I'm sure everyone else joins me in after the meeting wondering how you got the name Itchy, but I guess we'll talk about that. Okay, no problem. Mr. Derek Tate, anything you'd like to say to address the board? Okay, great. Let's just give these two members a hand and welcome. Next up, we need to vote to accept the appointment of a new rep for a brewer's office. I'm going to read the letter from her office dated September 7, 2017, to whom it may concern. Please be advised that Mr. Brian Lafferty will be my temporary representative at DYCD's CAB meeting on September 7, 2017. At this meeting, you can both speak and vote in my stead. Please do not hesitate to contact me with any questions. Sincerely, Gail Brewer. I don't believe Brian is here. Oh, he is here. I apologize. Yes. Right. Mr. Brian Rafferty, thank you for coming. Anything you'd like to say to address the board? Okay, thank you. We welcome you to the board. So I'd like to entertain a motion now to accept the appointment of Mr. Brian Lafferty. It's been properly motioned. Just say your name for the record, please. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Patel, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining? There being none, so moved. All right, so next order of business. You received emails on these documents. You probably received a couple of emails on these documents, and it's also part of the handout. And I apologize if it seemed like the stuff was sent repetitive, but this was very important information to share with the CAB so that you're aware In these regards, the rules and the bylaws in regards to the change of language involving quorum rules and excused absences. I'll just highlight the real top level stuff. I think we're going to talk about this in detail when we get to committee, and I have Joe here who can elaborate on it. The quorum has to be 50% of the total number of board members plus one. Those that are not shown, that has not shown up to the board meeting do not count as part of the quorum as in previous meetings. So in previous meetings, if a board member wasn't here, we would count that as a board member even though they weren't present to count against the quorum. That is no longer the case based on the new state guidelines. So that's why we encourage people that when they confirm to come to the meeting, to try your best to come to the meeting. We know this is a volunteer board, and everyone's time is valuable, and certainly your commitment has been shown in previous meetings, and you have a lot going on, but it's very important for us in terms to move the order of business that you're present at the meeting. We will not be able to move forward on any business as part of the agenda if there isn't a quorum. So that's the first part of the new language as part of the CAB and bylaws rules. The other is the excused absences. There's only one excused absence per term. Okay, so one excused absence. An excused absence is one where you notify a member of DYCD either through phone call or email, and you will not be present for the meeting, and that one will count as your absence. If you're not present at another meeting, you're absent, but it will not count as an excused absence. So I don't want it to sound strict, like, I hope I'm not coming across in that way, but these are very strict guidelines in terms of what the state requires. So if at all possible, things come up and things happen. So if you're in a position to really make the meeting, please do your best to make the meeting so that we can flow through with the agenda and do the order of business. Those rules and bylaws, in terms of that change in the language, is in your packet. Does anyone have any questions regarding that at the moment that we need to address? Anything in terms of the excused absences or the change in the quorum rules? The other is the New York City whistleblower policy. Does anyone have that as part of their packet? I'm not sure. Local law number 33 should be in your packet. The title of it, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, so it was on the table when you walked in. If you don't have it at all, just let me know, and a member of DYCD will pass that out. And we encourage you to read that as well. The next thing is, everyone may have noticed that a contact form was passed around. That was also on the table outside. It's very important that we get your updated contact information. We circulate this quite a bit throughout the year, but we found, and the perfect example is in Jacqueline Bailey's case, we did not have an alternate form of contact of any family member or anything, and had we had that, we surely may have been aware of what was going on with her prior to getting the news weeks later. So I know for some people there are various ways of contact if for some reason we're not able to reach out to you, but please fill this out so that we have another way to contact you in the event we need to follow up on well-being or need to reach out to you for any pertinent information. If you don't have that, please let me know, and we'll make sure a member of DYCD also hands that out to you, but we'd like to get that from everyone before you leave today. Any questions on that? Okay, so enough with the heavy stuff. So let's bring up Artis, who's going to go through financial and quarterly reports. Artis, I think this is only Mike. You may have to take this one.
Okay. Can everybody see any of the numbers on that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, take off. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Artis Sandmogen. I'm the Senior Budget Director of the UICD Financial Unit, and I'm going to talk today about both City Fiscal Year 18 and City Fiscal Year 17. The very first sheet that you see here has information on the City Fiscal Year 18 that started on July 1st. Yeah, okay, so we have $32.7 million in City Fiscal Year 18. And of that, $25.8 million is being spent in the program contracts area. As you can see, we have about 7 or 8 areas. We have the neighborhood development group that gets the bulk of our money, that's $15.8 million. Another sizable area is the immigration service contracts, that's with our city agency, HRA, that's $2.1 million. One of the other large areas are the Naikali program areas, that's close to $2 million, and the fatherhood program is 2.8. I want to talk a little bit about fatherhood and immigration, refugee assistance programs. Those two programs had new RFPs that started this July, and that's why you'll notice that there's no money in the payment section. So we're still in the registration process for that, and as soon as those contracts are registered, we're going to start making payments in those areas. The SYP program, as you all know, starts and ends by the time the first meeting for the CAB comes around. So SYP, for all intents and purposes, is over, and that's why you can see of the $1.6 million, we've spent 1.4. The rest of that will be spent over the next 9 months. The reason why, again, there's such low spending in this year, a lot of the programs are ramping up in July and August. They're hiring staff and so on and so forth, so they're not 100% to capacity, and that's why July and August we have very small invoices coming in from our providers, but as the year goes on, they increase their spending, and as a result, they increase their claims to us. So as we go through the year, those numbers are going to increase. But as of today, we have spending at 5.6% of the program contracts portion. The next category is the other contractual services, and this is money that's spent on technical assistance and other areas that support the programs that the DYCD and our providers run. And that represents 6.4% of the entire budget. And as you can see, there's no spending at all in that area. Again, it's early in the year. People are planning and ramping up, and as the year goes on, we're confident we'll be spending that money. The last category that we spend CSBG funds in is the personnel services, and that's on DYCD staff. The 14th, see it? So we allocate $4.7 million of the $32.7 million to be spent on DYCD staff, and that represents 14.5%. This money hits our budget on a quarterly basis. We do a cost allocation at the end of every quarter. So at the end of this month, we'll see numbers there, but it's too early to see it at this point. That's it for the 2018 dollars. I'm gonna go into detail on how we actually finished fiscal year 17. So this is being compared to the CAB meeting we had on June 15th. when we last met, we had spent $24.02 million. You see that here? That was our spending at that time. Since then, we've spent $32.4 million, and that represents 91% of the entire award. We've had a 37% increase in program contracts from that meeting. We've had a 70% increase on the other contractual services, and we've had a 18% increase on the personal services categories. We have set up an accrual system for the rest of the funding, the rest of the spending we expect our providers to make, and we expect that we'll spend 98% of our FY17 budget in the next couple of months or so. Providers are still putting together their final claims and they will submit to us. And we're confident, as we have in the past years, we're confident we'll spend at 98%. That's the financial report for the 2 fiscal years. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Anyone have any question on the financials?
Yes.
What is the deadline that they have to submit any claims?
That's a good question. We usually give them 6 months after the city fiscal year ends, and sometimes we need to give them more than that. But for the most part, within 4 months after the city fiscal year ends, we have the bulk of the claims in-house, and we pay that out. There's sometimes a few stragglers, and our providers, our accounts payable team sometimes need to reach out to them to find out what's going on. But for the most part, within 4 months, it's all in.
When do you need to finish with the budget you have for 17?
I'm
The
sorry.
money. When do you need to spend all the money
Right.
that's budgeted for 2017?
So the providers need to spend all their money by June 30th. So they receive their funding from July 1st of the previous year, and by June 30th, all the funding has to be spent. So sometimes it takes a while for them to gather the backup documentation for that spending, for them to submit their invoices to us. So anything that's spent after June 30th will hit the new city fiscal year. Correct, yes. You're welcome.
Hi, I just want to sorry, my name is Martin Calculator. Just to make sure I'm understanding this expenses and payment.
Sure.
Expenses is, they reported in what they spent.
Right.
Payments is.
And I know what you're asking. You're asking because our payments are higher than our expenditures, right? That's a great question. A lot of our providers are small groups, small neighborhood groups, small CBOs, and they don't have the seed money sometimes to start running a program when we give them a contract. So what DYCD does, it gives them an advance. So we advance 2 months of their budget. Let's say a provider has a budget of $120,000, that's about $10,000 per month. We would give them an advance of $20,000 so that they can start doing the work. And once they have invoices and bills and so on, they submit that to us. We don't recoup that advance until the last 3 months of the city fiscal year. So a provider is spending, we've given them $20,000, and they submit a bill to us for $5,000. We pay them the entire $5,000 from July through March. April, May, and June is when we start to reduce the payments based on their invoices. So if in April they send us an invoice for $10,000, we'll only pay them $5,000 because we're starting to recoup the advance. Yes?
What kind of contracts go under the other contractual services?
Okay.
Like the 91 or?
So the bulk of that is our technical assistance contracts. So you can see the technical assistance contract, $1.48 million. And maybe Mike, you can speak more about the services that those contracts provide.
Some time ago, the program committee, we had staff in the capacity building unit come and talk about what goes under the hood, but to keep it short, we do the bulk of our work through the direct services that the CBOs provide, but we also have contracts with other vendors that help strengthen their performance. So it could be leadership development, it could be case management, it could be a wide array of different stuff to make sure all of our investments are going well in the community. So you have to pay for that as well. And most of those vendors are community-based organizations themselves, but they're in the business of strengthening community organizations rather than providing direct services.
And I'd like to point out two other areas, actually three other areas. Fiscal field reviews for $289,000. Our agreement with the Department of State requires that we do random audits of our providers. So we contract with a few audit agencies to do fiscal field reviews. They go out to the field and they do an audit of those providers. They're randomly sampled and they follow up, they write a report and so on. Fiscal agent services for $18,500. I mentioned some of our providers are really small and they don't have a payroll office in-house. So what they do is the CD has a large contract with fiscal agent services providers, and a small portion of their budget goes into that pot, and it pays for payroll and other similar type services. Central insurance program. Again, we require that our providers have kind of insurance. Again, the CD has a large insurance program. Individual providers can't really afford an insurance program on its own. So the CD has a program and they buy into that program. You're welcome. All very good questions. Okay,
Thank you, Audis.
you're welcome.
So if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion now to accept the financial quarterly report. Just say your name, please. It's been moved. Second by Marilyn Mosley. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Abstaining? There being none, so moved. Thank you. So next up, our Deputy Commissioner is going to come up and give a report.
Hi, everybody. The summer's done. I'm so disappointed. Okay, but we have a lot of exciting stuff that we're gonna do. Can I put this up here? Stay there. So we have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Of course, you always know that because this is TSBG. Tonight I'm going to update you on all the different projects that we've been completing over the last few months, and then we'll talk about some of the new initiatives, some of the new community initiatives. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's all right. I think I can.
Before we get to business, we do at DYCD want to join you in honoring Jackie Bailey. We know that she was a fierce advocate for CSBG, and actually she was one of the people that was the advocate that started to help us to get new work sites for young people for SYEP. It was because of her that happened. I know many of you had worked with her on that. So we really do want to honor her. She will be missed. And you know, she really exemplified the kind of commitment that you all demonstrate as CAB members, and we really do appreciate. I want to send you thank yous on behalf of Commissioner Chung and the staff here, because we have great partners in you, and we're never going to get tired of saying thank you. So thank you. So first, I want to actually talk about the SYP program. We had almost 70,000 young people in that program this year, this summer. And there were 11,500 work sites. The program cost $126 million, and of course, we are contributors to that $126 million. In the summer, this past summer, we also submitted our refunding application. That document was reviewed by Greg Hambrick and the executive committee. And it maintains our current funding level, but this year it includes something special. And we did this on our own. We didn't have to do it, but we did it on our own. It includes an addition of our community development initiatives. We reported on programs, but not on the initiatives, the ways that we went out and did activities, integration activities with the community. Now we'll be able to report that to the state. And it will be an amendment to our strategic plan. So we'll talk more about the strategic plan and the new initiatives when we talk later on. Concerning the federal budget, if you watch TV, you know the deal. There's not much that we can say about that. The state hasn't given us much more information than we had the last time that we met, but as soon as we get that, we'll definitely let you know. Certainly in the program committees and the executive committees as they meet, and then also an update in the next time that we meet. With regards to MWBE, we just recently reported to the state the targets, if we met the targets or not. We actually did not meet the targets because these are the 20% of MWBE target is really difficult to reach. So, but we've done everything that we could to get there. So we were a little short. It's going to get a little bit harder for this year because they actually raised the target from 20% MWBE to 30%. So today we actually had a meeting with our providers so that they could also, last year we did some training with them and they began to put together documents that proved that they were actually doing their due diligence on behalf of MWBE. But this year, we've given them better tools, better ways to report so that we can actually make that target. And Mike Bobbitt will have more information on that the next time that we meet. If you have questions tonight on that, we'll direct it to Mike. Next, I want to talk about the feedback that we got from the state on the tracks and the National Organizational Standards reports. We have to report to the state, and these reports are really, really massive. There was the tracks report. I don't know how many boxes was that at my office?
9.
9 boxes.
9 boxes of documents. We have to prove everything that we're doing. And so, but the good news is that we met 94% of the National Organizational Standards and 96% of the indicators of excellence, which is the tracks report.
Very good.
Yeah, good clap. And you know what? What we're doing is learning how to respond to the state. And what happens is that we get all flustered about those reports, but then after we're done with them, we're really proud because the work that we do is so, I'm imagining that's very different than what other people are doing. We're really creative and innovative, not just with the money and on the investments, but on the community development and initiative side, which is the part we love to do. Later tonight, we're currently implementing the strategic, the last piece of this is that we're currently implementing all our strategic plan. You might remember I talked a lot about the strategic plan. I think we sent it out to you. And though it's the first year that we've completed that strategic plan. So now we're ready to report on those strategic plan outcomes. That'll be probably for the next meeting. We'll let you have that report. But the strategic plan, for those of you who are new and for those of you who don't remember, has two major pieces in it. One piece is all about CSBG, and the other piece is all about the agency. So all of DYCD, even though CSBG does not fund all of the agency, we did in our strategic plan include all of that, and that allowed us then to talk about integrated community development activities. If we wouldn't have done that, we would have just been reporting on our little piece of work, our silo piece of work. But that's not how we designed the plan. We designed the plan based on a new mission. And the new mission in that strategic plan really was having community development right smack in the middle. If you remember a few years back, what we were doing was really, a lot of it was based on the youth services. Well, when we changed that, all of a sudden the conversation also changed. And so we're doing a lot more integration and a lot more talking about young people and with young people and with families about community development so that we can address some of the poverty issues in these neighborhoods that we work. Okay, so later tonight, in the presentation section of the meeting, I'll be doing a little bit of an exercise with you because I want to get your feedback on some new things that we want to do that have to do with the NAB and the CAB. And then the agency-wide initiatives will be discussed in the next meeting when we do our year-end report. Finally, of course, the community assessment is always front and center with everything that we do. And so we actually have done a lot of work with that needs assessment in two parts, right? The first is that it's been distributed all over the place. Now, the state wanted us to do it, but we really wanted to show off, so they didn't have to tell us to do that. We really wanted to do that. So we've distributed it to elected officials, to some people who took the survey, to we have it on our website. We've did anybody bring a copy of the community-friendly one? No? We've given it out to different community members. We've sent it out to, we've had it in meetings when we've gone to talk to community-based organizations about what their needs are. So we've really done a great job of disseminating the document. But more than that, I mean, and this is what was, yeah, this was, you can come demonstrated. But more than that, our intention wasn't just to give this thing out. Our intention was to use it for community conversations. And so Joe has been doing some work with the NABs, not just to introduce them to the data, to have them to understand and analyze the data, but also to figure out how it can be utilized over time. What we didn't want was this thing to be a piece of information that was used only at the time that it was produced. We wanted to be relevant and to be used in real time. How are we going to do that? We'll tell you we actually have a whole bunch of different strategies about how we've been using this, but we won't do that tonight because it's very detailed. But we did want to tell you that that's what we've been doing with this, and Joe's been doing a lot of work with that. So after I'm done with my speaking, with my talking points, he'll come and give that report. All of that together really does, for us, and I know for you and for the community, allow us to really be proud of the work that we do as the community, as the agency whose burden is to address poverty issues in this city. And I'm really proud of the work because it's not just that we're doing one thing or even that we have to do it. It's that we want to do it And we're beginning to see the impact that all of these different strategies and all of these different stakeholders have as they impact the communities that we live in New York City. So thank you for all the work that you do on that. Joe?
Sure. I'm just, and I'm sure everyone in this room, a little concerned with the current president and how he has responded to the DACA issue. And I'm wondering whether you can visualize or see down the road how what he's doing will impact on programs and funding, and particularly for people in the program, but for immigrants. What kind of problems do you think might happen as a result of what he's putting forward at this time?
Well, first, the jury's out. We don't know what's going to happen. So obviously, I think that, you know, our concern is that not knowing always is a problem. But with this president, sometimes knowing is a problem. So, you know, we don't know where that is. But a bunch of things have been happening around the issue of DACA. So I'm going to let Kathy come up, and actually she's here because we knew this question was going to come up. We had a call yesterday with the mayor's office, and there's a whole bunch of things that we're doing as a result of what may or may not happen. You want to take this?
So yesterday, the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs had a call with all city agencies, and basically, we were going over what's going on with DACA, you know, how, you know, it's expiring in March, but right now, as you know, if you have your employment authorization, you're okay, nothing to worry about right now. But what they're trying to do is figure out how to make sure that there's free legal services available to help guide people, make sure that they know that they're still eligible for certain city services that are still there. So it's a matter of educating people, and that's what right now the focus is of the city, is to educate people so that they don't go and withdraw and hide. You know, is to make sure that they know that we're here. We're here for them. We're here to help them as best as we can. Crossing our fingers that by the time March comes along, Congress has done something. You know, so that's kind of like the little thing that we're kind of waiting for. Reminding people DACA is not done. Like some people think it's just done. It's over and they're now undocumented. They're still protected as long as their DACA is valid. They're still protected. So if they just recently renewed, they still have another 2 years to go. You know, if they just, you know, if they're renewing now and there's certain guidelines. So they're making sure it's educating people just the same way when February came along, the city began educating people about worrying about their status and things like that. So we're putting all our best efforts forward. You know, they're translating documents into many different languages that we'll be putting forward. You know, the city's asking, you know, city employees and everybody to help, you know, and you know, get the information out so no one withdraws. You know, because I think that's probably the biggest fear is people are going to withdraw and hide, and they'll be afraid. And we're trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. You know, and all city services, unless your service requires documentation, we're reminding people we're not asking your status. And this goes for everything. So unless we need to know your status, we're not going to ask your status. Okay? It's, you know, the mayor is very much committed to making sure that, you know, everybody's gets what they're entitled to and what they're eligible for.
Yeah, the other thing that I want to say about that is that we had a little brainstorming session yesterday about what might we do to inform people. So we did a strategy about that. So the first is to inform staff, all of DYCP staff, about what really this all means with DACA. The other, because everybody doesn't work in immigrant services, so they may not know the details, or they may not know how to explain the details. So we're going to give talking points to the program managers, so that if they're asked questions, they can get that. But the mayor's office is also has given us a lot of information as well that we will disseminate. We usually have provider meetings, so we have different like literacy providers or opportunity youth or SYP. And those provider meetings, we will also have somebody like Kathy or somebody who's gonna come and talk to all those providers about what DACA means. And you know, so you don't have people hide or give up because they're misunderstanding, they're thinking March are no longer eligible for this. So we'll be working with all our different constituencies within DYCD and outside of DYCD, the people that we fund to make sure that the information is out there and that we can guide them toward the information that they need. Sometimes that's going to be Moya, sometimes it's going to be internal, but we're doing the best we can to get the information out.
I just wanted to add something along with the outreach we're doing with DACA. Matter of fact, city agencies are going to do a day of outreach tomorrow morning at various subway stations around the city. If you're interested in learning more about it, you can talk to me afterwards. I can plug you into folks who are coordinating that. So we're already beginning the outreach to folks who live in the city about what DACA means at this point. So I just want to add that.
Thank you. So we're doing everything we can. As we get information, we strategize and then we do what we can to inform or to move things along.
My question, excuse me. My name is Rita Jones, Community Board 3, and my question is, in my community, we already have an issue with immigrants before the DACA thing came up. And now we got DACA, and now we have the census getting ready to be taken. Is there something that we can do for communities like mine to help them understand that these things will help them, not hurt them? Because otherwise, we're going to have a low census count in the communities. And in those communities, as you know, if you don't have voting and all those things, you get a little bit of crumbs off the table. That makes your community even poorer than it already is. So is there something that we can do as a whole to try to help communities to understand what they're really going to be going through?
I think that's a great question, and I think that's why it's important, so important that NABs and the CSBG become so active in their communities. We have a lot of groups in these communities that do have constituencies that can get the word out. I know that the mayor's office is doing a lot, Moya is doing a lot to organize around these events that you just named. But at the same time, they can give out all the information that they want. It's the people in the community really that have to organize around these issues and build a strategy around it. And I think that now the way that we are going to be talking with the NABs in these community conversations, if that's an issue in your community, that would be the one that I would bring to your NAB. The fact that you're a CAB member even makes it even more important that you go to that meeting and say, look, this is an issue. How are you guys organizing around it? How are you going to deal with it? Who can we bring to speak on this issue, and what are the things that we can do? These things are not going to go away or get better because city government agencies are doing information. That's only half of the strategy. The other half is how people on the ground in those communities, communicate that this is a problem. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go back to the, can you hear me okay? I'm going to go back to the community needs assessment. Real quick, I don't know if everybody knows that gentleman, Mr. Taylor, know it. He's from the mayor's office, who spoke earlier. So in terms of the community needs assessment and keeping it relevant, right? So we did this the last couple of months, and now it's the document exists, right? So we want to keep the document as a working tool that we can be using for the next year coming up. So then when it comes time to do the next RFP, we'll have fresh information. So the way we're doing that is we're taking this into the community now. So like Deputy Commissioner said, we started to have these local calling conversations with the NABs. We're doing it on the borough level first this quarter, this month. It's going to end in a couple weeks. We met in Queens and Staten Island. We did Bronx already. We got some board members at some of these. We're going to be, as they come along, we'll let you know in your borough when they're happening. We have Brooklyn next week, etc. So what we're doing is we're meeting borough-wide with everybody. We're going through all the NAB members. We're going through that big document that Sandy showed you. And then we have individual printouts of data for the individual NABs, and we're just explaining to them how to read that document and how to compare it to this document, which is citywide. And we're just introducing them to that notion and getting them familiar with what the documents are. Then the next quarter, we're following it up with individual NAB meetings where we're going to actually delve into every single quarter in this and their own individual data sheet from their own neighborhoods, and we're going to go into it, maybe 1, 2, 3 meetings, however many it takes. We're going to start discussing all this and coming up with ideas about working with them to go into the community to decide, is this information still valid? What are people's reactions to this information, et cetera, et cetera. So we're charging them to, over the next couple of months, to, as they work their groups that they're involved with, to bring the message back and forth about services needs and what is still relevant, so that going forward into springtime, we'll have community meetings then with the NABs and all the individual NABs around this issue as well. So, let's say April and May, we'll start having the community meetings. We're talking about the community needs assessment, again, discussing whether or not it's still valid and how to keep it going. And then that will take us into the end of the year, and then that'll hopefully get us to the next point where we're ready to do a new RFP. So that's how we're keeping this relevant and using it as a living document. And some of what I just mentioned also is part of the strategic plan, which is what we'll talk about. Okay, any questions? Okay, thanks.
That's it for me.
That's it. Any other questions on the commissioner's report? Okay, thank you both for that. I'll entertain a motion now to accept the commissioner's report. Properly moved by Marilyn Mosley. Second by Gloria Benefield. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstaining, there being none, so moved.
Thank you. So next up, we're going to have the committee reports, and just a brief statement on the committee reports. I know we have quite a few new members here. We have 3 committees. We have the program committee, we have the governance committee, and the strategic partnership committees. And the business that goes on in these committees often frame what takes place in this full board meeting to help it go a little smoother, but also to bring up topics of discussion that are important to the work that we all do here. We need additional people to be involved with the committees. Again, at the risk of infringing on everyone's time, we don't have a lot of committee participation in the current committees that we currently have. Outside, and I'm going to ask if anyone from DYC can pass it out. Okay, so we have this form. Well, first off, if you have any questions about what each committee is about, you can see me after, or a member of DYCD after, but they also have, is this here? They also have like a snapshot here of the description of each committee. If you're not quite sure which committee you would want to be involved with, or one that you think will be relevant to your interests, there is a snapshot here of what each committee does. But I'm just asking that if you're able to join the committee. They meet prior to the full board meeting, no more frequent than this full board meeting. And the meetings, usually anywhere from a half hour to an hour, depending on the topics of the meeting. But anyone here who is not presently a member of a committee and think they might want to be involved with the committee, I invite you to at least learn more about what goes on in the committee. The committee structure, all the committee structures also call for a vice chair. You know, we have a chair of the committee, the majority who are up here now. But the structure of the committee also calls for a vice chair. We unfortunately haven't been able to institute the vice chair just based on the numbers of the members of the committee currently. And with the unfortunate passing of Jacqueline Bailey in the absence of vice chairs, which is why now we have to present a slate at the next meeting to vote someone in as chair. Obviously, if we did have a vice chair, then it would be easy for someone to slip into that role and at least continue to do the order of the business. But that's my little PSA on the committee. Again, I'll be happy to talk. I know a couple of people actually came to me prior to the meeting, expressing interest in the committee, but wanting to know a little bit more about what takes place in the committee, and I'll be happy to talk to you about it, or anyone in DYCD or any of the chairs of the committee. It's a little extra time on your part, but it would really help to really disseminate information and go through topics that would make this meeting continue to go a little bit smoother. With that said, I'm going to pass it over to Tamika, who's first going to go through her committee, and then to Linda, who's going to go through the governance committee.
Thank you. So I'm going to discuss a little bit about what happened at the program committee, which took place August 16th. I just want to add that one of the members wasn't added to the minutes, and that was Gloria Binkle. She was in attendance in person that day, so that's one of the edits. Assistant Commissioner Mike Bobbitt gave a great presentation on tracks, which is the Department of State, like a scoreboard, and Deputy Commissioner said that the results were excellent. They had they scored 96% and 94% for the standards and the indicators. Also, he discussed within the strategic plan that there was going to be customer satisfaction surveys given out on like a rolling basis, I believe. And that's going to ask participants to indicate the type of services they were provided. If there were any suggestions that they had as to which type of services they may need, and that's a plus. So in future meetings, he'll give results as to what the customer surveys, the feedback was. And they also discussed refunding, about the refunding application for fiscal year 2018. So that was basically it.
Thank you, Tamika. Any questions on the program committee report? Okay. You always make me nervous when I say that. I'm joking. Any questions on the program committee report? So if there are no questions, I'll accept the motion to accept the program committee report with the corrections that was indicated by Tamika. Been properly moved by Linda Walters. Second, Isaac Herschel. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstaining, there being none, so moved. Thank you, Tamika. Next up is Linda Walters. Some of it may be a little bit repetitive because I touched on some of the topics that Linda talked about in her committee report, but I still want to give her the opportunity to give a recap of what took place.
Hi, and you know what, and I'm not going to give a recap since Mr. Hambrick already talked about it, but I would like to also just mention that we do need board members, and it's 7 members to each board, so please, to each committee, so please think about joining the committees, and you already know, as y'all have on this, I'm not going to call it a flyer, but it's at the the new CAB excuse absence. please, we have to have, you only can be on one time per program year meetings, and that we have to have a quorum in order to, like Mr. Henry said, make the meetings go smoothly. So please, once again, consider joining the committees, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, short and sweet. Any questions regarding the Governor's Committee report? And again, the handout regarding the new CAB rules, quorum rules, excused absence, and everything is in your packet and also in your email. More questions, entertain?
Okay, and I'm sorry because I think it was 2 weeks ago, we voted Maria Tavares as my vice chair, sorry. So she was voted in as of 2 weeks ago. She's not here today. Okay. She's excused today, but she was voted in. I'm sorry, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that correction, and we'll make a note of that. So I'll entertain a motion now to accept the Governor's Committee report with the corrections that were stated. It's been moved by Ms. Patel. Second by Rita Jones. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstaining, there being none, so moved. I chaired the Strategic Partnership Committee, and Joe touched on a good bit of what we discussed there. I highlight that they did visit every boroughs and reported back first information regarding the community needs assessments, but they had borough-wide meetings with the NABs and CABs, and I think that's going to go a long way if you think about the tie-in to a lot of what our Deputy Commissioner said, to a lot of what Marilyn Mosley talked about, to a lot of what Rita Jones talked about, really just to share a lot of the information and the concerns that's going on in the communities right now. I think this is going to strengthen participation of the NABs. This is going to strengthen increasing filling any vacant slots with the NABs, and also strengthen the communications between the NAB and the CAB. That was really it. I don't want to really rehash. Joe, did I miss anything in terms of strategic? Okay, and everything else was talked about already. So if no one has any questions regarding that, I'll entertain a motion to accept Strategic Partnership Committee report. Okay, just state your name. I don't know who said that.
Gregory Bender.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
It's been seconded by Rita Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, there being none, so moved. So thank you for that. Just a recap again, outside is a brief description of each of the committees and the requirements. There is a sheet being passed around where you can initial which committee you would like to be a part of. There's no rule, you can actually be a part of every committee. We do have a couple of members that are involved with each and every committee. And in the interest of time, depending on what's going on, you are allowed to call into the meeting. Okay, so a call-in number will be provided if you need to call into the meeting. Always best, obviously, to show up in person, but we know everyone's schedule is a little crazy, so you are able to call into the meeting, and DYC staff is always helpful in providing that conference call number. Thank you. All right, so next up, I believe we're going to have the Deputy Commissioner come back up, and she is going to go through the strategic plan update and exercise she referenced earlier.
So this is kind of unusual because we don't generally have, you guys discuss something and give us feedback, but I'm gonna change that. So today, what we wanted to do, I talked about the strategic plan and the different parts of the strategic plan. And a lot of the focus in the strategic plan is about these community conversations and how the NAB and the CAB function. Because it's a real simple reason. We don't want to be advisories or committees that have discussions among ourselves. We want to be the kinds of advisories that really impact neighborhood. That you go there and you start stuff. So you start mess, you start noise, you get it on fire, and we really want it to be a different kind of CAB and NAB. So in order to do that, we need a little bit of feedback from you. So at your tables, we're asking that you do, are they getting the sheets with the questions? Okay, so at your table, you have a sheet that has 3 questions. And the 3 questions are basically that, what does the strategic plan mean to you as a CAB member? And I know that we sent out the plan, maybe it's fuzzy, but a lot of it is stuff that you know and you're doing already. It's how does the CAB, how does the NAB function?
Sure.
How does having a plan or objectives, what does that mean to you? The second question, so when you do this, I want you guys to have the discussion and then I want you to record your answer, okay? The second question is, what are the benefits of having a CAB and the NAB work together? And this goes directly to Rita's question, right? Well, you know, how does this group relate to what's happening in the community, right? And then the last question is, so if you think there's a benefit in that there should be more coordination between the CAB and the NAB, then what are some strategies that we could implement, that we could agree on, and then later on look at it, see if it's a good thing, right? So that we can begin to do this work in those communities, all right? So what I want you to do is get together, talk, and put the answers to those questions on these papers so that we can take them back with us, but then we can have a little bit of a discussion. Is that clear? You good? Okay. So why are the papers
I'm saying when they record
so they
Yeah.
The caps are up.
So having that kind of communication back and forth, you know, folks who are sort of on the ground saying, and I see it here, which has participation which we have on the UIC staff, as well as people issues citywide.
Right.
Any other?
Okay, we almost done? Yes, you got some good ideas? Okay, we ready? Anita, we ready?
I'm sorry,
That's why they're
Did you hear us talking?
Okay, we're gonna.
I'm hearing zero
Oh, it's not, it's not.
Okay, so we gotta move along here. So what we wanna do is, we're not gonna get all your answers to record, is that all right? What we'll do is we'll compile all of your answers, and then we will put them in the packet in the next meeting, or email them to you. But in the meantime, look at what you have, and give me your best one. Whatever the best thing is that you have on that paper, that's what we want to hear. I want to hear it quickly. So let's go. You got what you? No, you don't only get one. Let me have your attention. You're not only you're gonna get to say one here, because we can't go through the whole thing, otherwise we'll be here all night. I don't mind, I don't have a date. But if I did, you'd be in trouble. I don't, but I know some of you do, so I'm gonna be good to you. Okay, so you're gonna get whatever is on that paper that is the best. You're gonna tell me that.
Well, we said that, of course, the strategic plan has to have a vision and a mission, but also it has to be measurable and actionable. We'll have to be able to measure it and take actions against that measurement on a consistent basis.
Which one's that under?
What question was it?
That was number one.
Number one. Oh, that was, what does it mean to you?
She didn't hear it though.
Oh, that it has to be measurable, that you have to have a way to measure it.
Our favorite was number 3, what are some strategies we can implement? And we said a public service campaign to increase knowledge about NABs and community participation. Wow.
Okay. You ready? You ready?
I'm just going to state an answer, and then you can decide where you want to put it. This is Victoria Camerata Curto from 14, Region 14. All right, so we talked about the strategic plan and what it means as CAB members, that we would become more focused on some of the grassroots organizations within our areas, that we would meet NEB members. I think we should have some sort of social events, talking about having a date, but having a social event where we're not at a formal meeting with papers, but we're having like a meet and greet, having a cocktail, maybe, hors d'oeuvres. We'll get some organizations to pay for that, but it's a good way for us to network, just like they do in private industry. We should be able to do that and come up with solutions, because it's 6 degrees of separation. Everyone knows someone. And also those who are disenfranchised, that are falling through the cracks, like my friend was saying, we need to make time to listen. So we're the ones that go into the community. You should be making those bridges, connecting people together, and then somehow or other, I think they'll be able to manage the strategic plan.
Excellent.
Well, I mean, so we were a little bit, not all over the place, but I think, in looking at all of your questions, the thing that keep coming back is how we can implement the strategic plan to help strengthen NABs. I think that's actually a key ingredient as far as fulfilling its mission of reducing poverty at the end of the day, is by having strengthen NABs to actually help implement a lot of these ideas that come about. So it's kind of a merge of the three, kind of goes a little bit all over the place. But share that.
That doesn't sound like it, because it's actually what's in the strategic plan, what you just said.
So being that Ms. Patel served on both the NAB and currently the CAB, she pointed out that we really focused on number 2. With the CAB and the NAB working together, we'd be better aware of those on-the-ground challenges with the, assessments, recruitment. We're just looking at numbers, but if we knew the day-to-day ins and outs, we can, make better assumption recommendations.
If you're going to Are you good?
Well, what we talked about was ways to get the information to the community. And community boards are one of the best places to do that. And we figure that each month at our community board meeting, we could give a report on some of the services that are available, some of the stuff that DYCB is doing for our communities, and the quarterly reports and written information, we would be able to pass it out at those board meetings. Thank you.
Did everybody go? Yes? Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna collect these papers, do not leave with them. And we are going to put the information together. And we will then put some of the ideas together, the ones that come up the most often, and then build a strategy around what you wrote and give it back to you so that you can tell us if we got it right. And then we'll do something about it. Maybe we'll have a party.
The cocktail party.
Thank you so much. That was perfect.
Thank you. That was a great exercise. I don't know, just for a moment, maybe you heard what I heard. There's a common theme. Like, it's almost up to us to strengthen the NABs and their involvement in the community and the communication. I don't know if you, so it's almost like we made a commitment in terms of this feedback. So I think that's kind of like the basis for our next step, whether you're private sector like me, whether you are a former NAB, whether you're a community board member, no matter what. I think each and every one of us in this room now has a responsibility in some shape, form, or fashion within this remainder of this program year to really attend an NAB meeting, find out what's going on there, encourage a rep from the NAB to attend the meeting, and see if we can uplift a lot of what we're saying here. All right, enough of my soapbox.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Is this something you want me to say, or? This is a question, okay. So much for ending the meeting. NFL does start today. Which part of the budget, this is a quick question, I guess. It's more a financial question. Which part of the budget does food and beverages come out of for the NAB meetings? Victoria wants to know because she's serving hors d'oeuvres and drinks. But I guess the question is, if you know real quick, what budget line does food and beverages for the NAB meetings come out of?
There's, the answer that I can do off the top of my head is there's a section within the budget for board development. And so, if I'm recalling it correctly, both the stipends that are issued as well as incidental costs related to that. So this is an important function to sustain the board, right? But we can also take a note and make sure at the next board meeting that that's included in the fiscal presentation.
I probably would do that because I think this is something that's part of what, in terms of what we're going to do for the next NAB meetings, that would be helpful. So if you can disseminate that, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone. Any old business that we have to discuss? Old business. Any new business? No new business? Okay, well, I thank everyone. Just remember the handouts for committee. The committee sign-up, so I encourage everyone to sign up for the committees. The description of the committees is out there. I'll be here for a little bit, so especially for the new members, if you have any questions or anything that you have, I'll be here afterwards. I'll be happy to answer those questions in terms of the committee and in terms of the participation on the board as well. And please remember all the new rules as it relates to the excused absences and the quorum. And if that's it, I'll entertain a motion now to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Linda Walters. Second by Gloria Dunford. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. Enjoy everyone. Thank you to everyone from DYCD, Anita, Joe, the entire staff, Gian, everyone, and also thank you. I never thank our stenographer. She sits here and types and goes through this all day. We thank you for bearing with us for our meeting as well.